This video is going to look at the major flood disaster in the city of Derna in northern Libya due to Medicane Daniel. It occurred after extreme rain triggered multiple dam failures that sent a surge of water, mud and debris across a large section of the town surrounding the river, destroying a wide swath of buildings and tragically killing thousands. There's a lot to talk about here, so let's take a look at it. Medicane Daniel formed out of an upper-level cold core trough that dipped down over Europe, over Greece, bringing heavy floods to Greece, Bulgaria, Turkey, and other places. As the upper-level low moved over the Mediterranean, it developed a warm core inner core subtropical cyclone known as a Medicane over the Mediterranean. On the 9th of September, Medicane Daniel became fully formed as a tropical storm strength system in the Mediterranean Sea north of Libya. We know it was tropical storm strength partly because we got an ASCAT scatterometer image that showed that there was a wide swath of 40-knot winds. The storm then hit eastern Libya on 10th of September as a tropical storm strength subtropical cyclone, Medicane. As the circulation moved inland, the heavy rain and thunderstorms were confined more on the northern side, while the southern and central part of the circulation picked up vast amounts of dust off the Sahara Desert. The dust wrapped around the central core of the circulation, creating the impression of a rotational dust storm, or let's call it a sandstorm eye. One of the things that's really useful to look at is the lightning data, because this gives an impression as to where the heaviest thunderstorms were located, producing the most intense rainfall. Keep an eye on the time in the top right. As we go later on into the 10th of September, a thunderstorm band develops and persists over the Derna area. It actually peaks around 0 UTC to 02 UTC with a very specific band going in over the plateau, dumping presumably huge amounts of rain. To understand this event, we've got to take a closer look at the geography of the area around Derna. If we look at Derna from the top, Derna is over here, and there's the river that caused the flood. It's a canyon landscape into a elevated plateau, with Derna peeking out on the edge of the plateau. And that's the canyon coming down into the city. But this canyon is a bit different from a lot of the other canyons that intersect and go in like this. This canyon actually comes through and wraps around the back of the plateau and then spreads out a long way to the south of the plateau. This means that it had a large catchment that then would have flowed down the river towards Derna. The story of 23-year-old Amna gives an idea of the timing of when things got very bad, and also about the speed at which the floodwaters were rising. She was located in the beach towers, which can be seen before and after in these Maxar images, and most of the buildings around the beach towers collapsed during the event. I'll just read the description that she gives of the event. She says, "It really began around 2:30 a.m. The noise was getting much louder. My brother said he could see water covering the street. As the water rose, the neighbors began to migrate upstairs. Amna grabbed the cat and 4 passports, and they went up from their first floor apartment to the 3rd floor apartment. People were looking outside into the dark, praying. Then the water reached the 3rd floor. Everyone started screaming. We moved up again to the 5th floor, and finally to the 7th floor. Panic had set in. I lost the cat," Amna said. "I lost my little brother for a minute, but then I found him. I realized we could not even stay on the 7th floor. We had to go to the rooftop. From the rooftop, they could see neighbors on the roof of a 3-story building opposite, including a family they were friends with. The neighbors were waving their phone torches in the dark. Moments later, their entire building collapsed into the water in the dark. It felt like an earthquake," Amna said. "That family still hasn't been found. Their son is looking for them. We told them that we saw their building collapse in front of our eyes." Amna's description gives the impression that the flood did not come all at once. It started to flood the lower levels and then increased, submerging more and more areas. Of course, nobody could actually get out of the buildings when the entire area below is in incredibly dangerous flowing floodwaters. So people were trapped in the buildings, going to higher and higher floors while other buildings were collapsing under the force of the torrent. Now let's take a look again at this video, which is probably the best available video of the rise of the event, though I think there are no videos of the event at its absolute peak. The video is only 1 minute 30 seconds long, and we can see the rate of water level rise during that short time. Here are the snapshots of the archways at the start of the video and at the end, and it appears the water has risen substantially in this short time by a number of meters, and all of the trees in the foreground have been washed away. It's been clear from some time now that this disaster was the consequence of the failure of two dams in the Wadi Derna River Valley, which is usually dry. Immediately above Derna, the Wadi Derna River reaches an escarpment and becomes a canyon-like complicated river system that penetrates far into the plateau region inland. The two dams that failed can be clearly seen on Google Earth, and it appears most likely that the upper dam, Dam 2, failed first, sending a surge of water, mud and rock downriver that overwhelmed the second dam. Both dams were embankment dams with clay fill. The core is made of compacted clay and the sides are made of stones and rock. They were built by Hydro Project from the former Yugoslavia on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture in Libya from 1973 to 1977, so they are at least 46 years old. And the fact that bushes can be seen growing on the dam gives an indication of poor maintenance. And in fact, civil engineer Abdel Wani's AR Ashur of Umar al-Mukhtar University warned just last year that the naturally flood-prone landscape could lead to disaster if the local dams were not properly maintained. Because Dam 1 was just above the city, there was extremely little time for the flood to spread out and reduce its energy. An additional problem was caused by the presence of the dams over the past 50 years, because they created a sense of reassurance amongst people, which allowed for the development of buildings, roads and facilities on the banks of the valley that were not intended historically. Based on US data, it's likely that the failures of the dams was due to overtopping, which could have occurred because of inadequate or blocked spillways, or simply because the amount of water entering the dam lake exceeded the spillway capacity. I'll directly read from Wiki regarding overtopping failure of dams. Overtopping or overflow of an embankment dam beyond its spillway capacity will cause its eventual failure. The erosion of the dam's material by overtopping runoff will remove masses of material whose weight holds the dam in place and against the hydraulic forces acting to move the dam. Even a small, sustained overtopping flow can remove thousands of tons of overburdened soil from the mass of the dam within hours. The removal of this mass unbalances the forces that stabilize the dam against its reservoir, as the mass of water still impounded behind the dam presses against the lightened mass of the embankment, made lighter by surface erosion. As the mass of the dam erodes, the force exerted by the reservoir begins to move the entire structure. The embankment, having almost no elastic strength, would begin to break into separate pieces, allowing the impounded reservoir water to flow between them, eroding and removing even more material as it passes through. In the final stages of failure, the remaining pieces of the embankment would offer almost no resistance to the flow of water and continue to fracture into smaller and smaller sections of earth or rock until they disintegrate into a thick suspension of earth, rocks, and water. Libya's National Meteorological Center said that Daniel's landfall brought between 150 to 240 millimeters of rain to several cities, but Al-Baida recorded the highest rainfall rate of 414.1 millimeters in 24 hours from 10th of September at 8 a.m. to 11th of September at 8 a.m. The Libyan National Meteorological Center said that this was a new rainfall record. Al-Baida is inland and elevated and sits atop the edge of the plateau. The fact that this rain was almost double what was recorded in other nearby cities gives an indication as to how the escarpment and plateau region was triggering even heavier rainfall. Al-Baida is actually only 27 kilometers from the source of the Wadi Derna, the river that flows all the way to Derna, according to my rough analysis. So these types of totals, or higher probably, occurred within that river catchment, even with an estimate of half this amount across the plateau. A Libyan analysis suggests the catchment basin for the Wadi Derna would have produced 115 million cubic meters of water, which is already greater than the combined capacity of the dams. One of the factors that might have acted to enhance that thunderstorm rain band that came into Derna is this pocket of warm waters that was off the coast at the time. The wind was blowing around the cyclone onto the shore and then hitting the mountains. but as it was doing so, bringing large amounts of moisture through evaporation off the warm waters, particularly warm in this area. These waters are actually well above normal in this particular area. We can see that if we switch to the sea surface temperature anomalies, that the temperatures were about 2.3 degrees Celsius at peak there. So in the larger area, around 2 degrees above normal within this pocket. The third and perhaps final iteration of this Derna disaster video will add a section on the role of climate change in this event, as well as other updates. In a nutshell though, a warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture, which means rain events in a warmer climate can be more intense and can lead to greater flooding, and the Mediterranean has already warmed in recent decades. In terms of Medicanes themselves, it seems that there is potential for greater peak intensity and there is high confidence of an increase in rainfall with such storms. Perhaps most concerning is the potential changing behavior of the jet stream, with a possible shift towards greater meandering and more frequent omega blocks associated with heat waves and with slow-moving upper troughs to the east and west, similar to the one that generated this storm. I need to research all this more. Please stay tuned to this channel for further updates as we dive down this rabbit hole. Please leave a comment and join our Discord. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Threads, Mastodon at YouStorm.org. See you in the next one.